All praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of his son. I count it always a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word, and never do I count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, what I want to deal with today today is Mother's Day. So on this Mother's Day, um, while all over the country, people were locked in churches, telling lies about how good their mother was, taking them to a golden corral afterwards, the church service as they walked through to the buffet to eat some food they didn't need, wearing the corset or the flower that they had, and with the microwave you bought them or whatever it was in the trunk of their car. I'm not really here to honor mothers on this particular day. I want to talk about the children. Now, why would I want to talk about the children? I want to talk about the children because how many children have been destroyed by the mothers in this country? I always say that, I always talk about rather the issue of abortion, and I talk about it because to me it is a genocide. It's a genocide that has impacted the whole country, and it certainly is impacting our people specifically to a human rate. So, but before we get going, let's just look a bit on Mother's Day and see some things here. So, okay, so first of all, let's look at this here. This is history. This is history.com. So, the Mother's Day is just like any other day that people uphold as they deny the days that they find in the Bible. All these days that in the Bible, people ignore, and yet they will uphold these days. And I wanted us to point something out because I know it's a whole story about how Mother's Day got started in the United States and how Mother's Day is a big deal in the United States. Side note, nobody cares about fathers, but nevertheless, Mother's Day gets all this hype, and you have a story. They talk about it later about Ann Jarvis, how she let me get rid of this. How it came to be celebrated in the United States. But I want us to look at this. This is from again history.com. It said, "What is Mother's Day?" Celebrations of mothers and motherhood can be traced back to the ancient Greeks and Romans, who held festivals in honor of the mother goddesses, Rhea and Sybil. But the clearest modern precedent for Mother's Day is the early Christian festival known as Mothering Sunday. Okay. Once a major tradition in the United Kingdom and parts of Europe, this celebration fell on the fourth Sunday in Lent and was originally seen as a time when the faithful returned to their mother church, the main church in the vicinity of their home, for a special service. Over time, the Mothering Sunday tradition shifted into a more secular holiday. Children would present their mothers with flowers and other tokens of appreciation. The custom eventually faded in popularity before merging with the American Mother's Day in the 1930s and the 1940s. So this veneration of women and mothers has an ancient tradition, and it's morphed just like many of the other pagan days that people observe while they disregard what the Lord has put into place. All right, so that's what they do. And so on this Mother's Day, so on this Mother's Day, um, feel again it necessary to talk about the children, okay? Because while all this, again, people do this on Mother's Day to celebrate mothers, what about the babies? Okay? And I'm talking about the ones who basically were destroyed in silence. And I just want to just look at this here. Because again, I don't see how anybody's celebrating anything about mothers You got the worst mothers in the history of humanity. In just the United States alone, since Roe v. Wade, that's not that long of a time. You've had 60. I've been derelict and given the, I always say 60 million. It's 65 million. 65,798,806 abortions since Roe v. Wade. And that is according to numbers of abortions.com, which keeps track of this. And not only that, I want to point out this fact that there have been 19 million Black abortions, roughly to almost 20 million since 73. So we're only roughly 40 million strong or weak, if you will, in this country. And you've had almost half of that number in abortions. There's nothing really to celebrate about motherhood. It looks like mothers are murderers. And I know that's a harsh thing to say, but somebody needs to say it while people have been crying tears again, telling lies about how good their mother was. Again, how we uphold mothers when 1 in 4 U.S. women expected to have an abortion in their lifetime. That doesn't seem like this is a country that really cherishes motherhood. That's according to Guttmacher. 13% of women in the United States like to have an abortion by age 25. Is it 1 in 4 U.S. women expected to have an abortion in their lifetime? This is again Guttmacher. This is from April. This is not that long ago, April 17th, last month, 2024. All right. Listen to what they said. A new analysis from the Guttmacher Institute's abortion patient survey estimates that 1 in 4, 24.7% of U.S. women of reproductive age will have an abortion by age 45 if the 2020 abortion rate remains constant. This is largely unchanged from 2014, the last year for which the statistic was calculated when the lifetime incidence was 23.6. And it is interesting that they do away with Roe v. Wade. Abortions are not going down. Now they're just popping the pill at their home. The statistic confirms, we'll talk about that in a second. The statistic confirms what we already know. Abortion is a normal part of the reproductive lives of people with the capacity to become pregnant. What the heck? You talking about women, right? What do you mean the lives of people with the women are the ones that can become pregnant? Okay, and 25% of them are killing their babies. So what are we talking about when we, again, on this Mother's Day? Bans and restrictions are designated to stigmatize abortion. Abortion should be stigmatized. But our study shows 1 in 4 women is expected to have an abortion in their lifetime. That means that almost everyone, including abortion opponents, knows someone who hasn't had an abortion. Okay, just because they're doing it doesn't mean it should be done. See, a lot of people can be doing something bad. It doesn't mean that it's okay to do. It just means a lot of people are doing something bad. As your mother would tell you, if your friend jumped off a bridge, were you gonna jump too? When you talk about what your friend did, or what, no. You need to we need to face the reality. 1 in 4 U.S. women expected to have an abortion in their lifetime, and you want to celebrate Mother's Day. That doesn't make any sense to me, but what do I know? This is, like I said, abortions, they haven't been reduced. This is from March of this year from NPR. Despite bans in some states, more than 1 million abortions were provided in 2023. So you have these bans, and you have these states that are having these restrictions, and these women are fighting tooth and nail to kill their children. Why? Again, on this Mother's Day, what are we celebrating? This is not something that should be celebrated. Because again, these have to be the worst mothers in the history of all of mankind. That's not hyperbolic. I mean, statistically, has there ever been a time when mothers have killed their children at the rate of mothers killing their children in this time in the human story, in the human narrative? I don't think so. More than 1 million abortions were provided in the U.S. in 2023. That's a major finding from a report published Tuesday by the Guttmacher Institute, a research organization that supports access to abortion. People need to look at the history of like Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger and these eugenicists and who they wanted to exterminate. To be precise, researchers estimate that there were 1 million abortions in 2023. That's the highest number in over a decade. And the first time there have been over 1 million abortions provided in the U.S. former healthcare system since 2012. So Trump gets in office, he puts people on the Supreme Court believing Roe v. Wade will be overturned. It's overturned, and they fight tooth and nail to continue to abort their children. What you celebrating Mother's Day for? Again, the worst mothers in the course of human history. And they celebrate women like this. This is from an article, Women's Wear Daily. No, I don't allow you to ask. Megan Thee Stallion and Patricia Arquette, perhaps, praised Planned Parenthood at the Spring Into Action Gala. I want to kick this off by saying my body, my business. She even has a song called Plan B. This is the degenerate reality that we're dealing with today. So she says, I want to kick this off by saying my body, my business. Megan Thee Stallion told the ballroom at Cipriani South Street Tuesday evening to roaring cheers and applause. The 3-time Grammy winner was on hand arriving. Pop star late. Wait, on hand arriving pop star late. Okay. At the annual Planned Parenthood of Greater New York Spring Into Action Gala to accept its catalyst for change, for her advocacy for the organization over her career. Megan was joined by Arquette, who received the Champion of Change award. Planned Parenthood, okay, I'm gonna skip down a little bit. Planned Parenthood is doing such important and impactful work. Yeah, making sure people can kill their children. They're providing millions across the country with safe and secure sexual reproductive health services. Okay, so people say that's not all that they do. They're not only doing abortions, but listen, the fact that they're doing abortions in the way in which they are, and for the purposes of of getting rid of a child that is inconvenient, is a genocide. You got more abortions, more terminations and these are children with unique children with their own personhood. They have rights that are being violated. And the fact that you think that you can kill your baby in the privacy of your own home, and you talk about my body, my choice, actually, yeah, that's your body, and that's somebody else's body too. A distinct body that in almost every case, because less than 1% of abortions are because of rape, that you decided to lay down and do the thing that causes the baby to come forth. So again, on this Mother's Day, we need to be thinking about this. We need to be thinking about why all these mothers killing their children. Why 1 in 4 women in the United States gonna have an abortion before the age of 45? They're providing millions across the country with safe and secure sexual reproductive health service. That's another thing. People say, well, if you don't allow this to happen, they're just going to do it. They're going to go in some back alley somewhere. Listen, it does not. Listen, that still doesn't make it right. If you don't let them do this and allow them to do this, they're going to go by these enemies. How about we change our cultural values? Because if the reality is, if women were married before having children, you wouldn't have all these abortions. That's a cultural thing. The United States and the West in general, and I'm dealing with the United States in particular, has become sexually degenerate to the point where it's free sex, and then when you get a baby, they'll get pregnant. Now it's time to kill the baby. This is what's going on in the United States. And you ask so many, I can't count how many women I've heard when they having children and they're not married. That's another thing. How, you this great mother. Why you not married when you having the children? You automatically setting up the children to be in a disadvantaged situation. You automatically doing it. Again, we need a change in values on this Mother's Day. But you ask them, they have 2, 3 kids by 2, 3 men. He said, well, why didn't you marry, your children's father? I don't want to do that. But you would let him impregnate you. See the mindset, the thinking. Like I said, this again, in addition to just being a bad example for women in general, Megan the Stallion. I don't know why you call yourself you a stallion. A stallion is a male horse. But nevertheless, you listen to that. Or I read the lyrics of that song after I read this article. And again, it's degeneracy. And you read the comments. Oh, she went in there. All the women love this song. Who tricked you into thinking, number one, that your body is some dumping ground? And who tricked you into thinking that you're supposed to be laying with some man that has not committed to you? Who tricked you into following whores? Right? Who tricked you into thinking that it is appropriate to abort your children? I've even heard many women say, I don't want to say many, but a number of women say, yeah, if I'm having a son, they definitely want to abort the son. Who tricked you into thinking that this is okay? But like I said, a bunch of lies are going to be told today, or have been told today, because it's late. All around the country in these churches. Dear Mama Tupac been playing, and Mama, I love you, my boys to men. All that stuff's been playing today. But Planned Parenthood is doing such important and impactful work. They are providing millions across the country with safe and secure sexual reproductive health services, a necessity during this time when women's abortion rights are under attack, Megan told the room. Megan's music celebrates herself, her body, her confidence, and how we as women should put our power and our pleasure first. Wow. Tanya Lewis Lee said of Miana Reed. She's passionately calls for justice, equality, and respect, especially for Black women. Yes, again, you talk about somebody who's been bamboozled. Who tricked you into thinking that was an appropriate thing to do to kill your children? So Black women, again, we go back. How many Black abortions were there? Number of abortions. They put this on because we were only roughly 14% of the population, but we have a third of the abortions. That is by design. Go back to I wrote a book called Killing Black Innocence. You need to go get that book. You need to read that book. Because it goes back before you had the abortion push. What did you have? You had the push to take away the ability of Black women to reproduce, oftentimes without their consent. So think about how they done us as a people. During slavery, they bred us like cattle, making sure we pumping out babies so they can sell them down the river. Right? Then what happened? They told us, well, you need to have abortion, you need to deal in birth control. And Margaret Sanger, they had a Negro Project. This is Planned Parenthood, what became Planned Parenthood. They had a Negro Project, which was a program to go to all the so-called Negro leadership. You had Fraser, you had W.E.B. Du Bois, Adam Clayton Powell. You had a lot of different leaders that went along with this plan to do what? To convince Black people not to have children. Okay? Because they were eugenicists. They don't love you. Again, you talk about somebody been bamboozled. You ever notice when immigrants come to a different country where they try to outpopulate you? Why? Because having babies is power. But they told you don't have any kids. Talk to young Black women today. I don't want kids, or they want to put kids off. And if they having kids, they not married. 80% of the kids that are almost 80% of the kids that are born to us are born out of wedlock. You want to talk about Mother's Day? This is what you need to consider on this Mother's Day. How many babies you killed? 20 million? More, that's more than men murder. Yeah, you know, your son without a father go out, acting a fool, get shot, you crying in the streets. You didn't raise him properly. But even with all those murders, going through Detroit and Chicago and Baltimore and St. Louis and Compton and all and Jersey, all these cities where we in these urban ghettos that we live in, you have this crime. Well, if you add all that crime as far as murder, violence, you add all that violence, you add that with heart disease, HIV, AIDS, and other ailments, they don't compare to how many are dying through abortion. So we celebrating people like her. You shouldn't celebrate this woman. And then to throw it in your face, fair use, you people at YouTube, fair use. This is for critique. This is for education. Uh, fair use. Oh, let me go here. Fair use. Now listen to what she says. This is from Fox. MSNBC host Alex Wagner or Wagner, depending on how you pronounce this. We need underground railroad for women seeking abortion freedom.
Surprised at any of this. I hate to be cynical, but I'm not. And here's why. Reproductive rights advocates, particularly women of color leaders or reproductive justice organizations, have been shouting for decades about the impact on communities like this.
And this time, they really want you to kill your kids if you black. I'm just letting you know, they really want you to kill your kids. They have always wanted you to kill your kids if you are black, and you've been stupid enough to do it and evil enough to do it. It cannot be justified.
That stories for so long because of the drip targeted restrictions against abortion providers that made Roe ineffective and unavailable, the promise of Roe, to vast parts of this country, rural parts of America, women of color who couldn't access abortion because of restrictions on federal funding. We were already in a very dire state for abortion access in the country before Dobbs fell. But of course, I don't want to make a mistake of saying it is not increasingly more horrific. But to answer your question, these legislators, these Republican extremists, they knew these stories because we've been telling these stories for decades. And so, frankly, they are not surprised, but they are pushing through because this is all about power control. They're seizing the moment, even though people in their own party, as we saw in Kansas, are horrified and don't agree with them. So I think it's an overall trend of drifting extremism of the extreme right. And it's indicative of a lot of challenges in this country. We're talking about a draconian nightmare in this country for pregnant people.
Wait, a draconian nightmare? The draconian nightmare is not being able to abort your children. The double speak, the propaganda, the just being bamboozled. Let me go back. I don't know why that happened. Let me see. Let me go back to this liar here. Give me 1 second.
Surprised at any of this. But to answer your question, these legislators, these Republican extremists, they knew these stories because we've been telling these stories for decades. And so, frankly, they are not surprised, but they are pushing through because this is all about power control. They are seizing the moment, even though people in their own party, as we saw in Kansas, are horrified and don't agree with them. So I think it's an overall trend of the drifting extremism of the extreme right. And it's indicative of a lot of challenges in this country. We're talking about a draconian nightmare in this country for pregnant people, for women. We need kind of underground railroad for women seeking reproductive freedom. I mean, this is
So this woman said you need an underground railroad for women looking for these services. So you compared You compared women trying to kill their children with people trying to get free. I mean, how many times do they have to disrespect us? And how long are we going to be bamboozled? How long are we going to be deceived into thinking that this is the thing that we should do, that we should kill our progeny? I always say the KKK doesn't have to do anything. Sitting at, they can sit at their meetings, you know, hey, playing bid whiz, drinking brew or something. They don't, they not bid whiz, they probably don't play bid whiz. Whatever game they play, and their little stupid ceremony they have when they burn the cross, whatever they doing, they don't have to kill black people. We're doing it. We're doing it. We are doing it. And she compared killing your children to abortion with the Underground Railroad, of which people are trying to escape the harsh realities of slavery. How do we allow such disrespect? And we need to get back to having some values. And we're not going to, the Bible gives us a way in which we should live. Not these people. These people are immoral. And they're always going to put some so-called person of color in front of you to fight for you to kill your children.
What we are talking about.
Say the here again. Say that again.
For pregnant people, for women. We need kind of underground railroad for women seeking reproductive freedom. I mean, this is America we are talking about.
Underground Railroad. I'm here. Ironically, it's a train right outside. Well, it's not right outside, but it's far away. But you can hear the horn, perhaps on the video. Underground Railroad. This is the madness. And this particular publication, Christian Post, they even mentioned, they said the Underground Railroad saving women from today's abortion slavery. The decision that released, this is June 24th, 2023, the decision that released the country from the 50-year bondage of abortion also inspired abortion proponents to terrorize those who help women escape the circumstances leading them to abort. The fire at Life Choices was reported, pregnancy center was reported at 3:17 Saturday, hours after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade and said abortion laws would be decided by the states. The AP reporter said, read, Life Choices in Longmont, Colorado joined a still growing list of pregnancy help centers being physically vandalized by pro-abortion protesters. This mindset, this mindset of killing your babies, again, the mothers that need to be celebrated. And in a pregnancy, it's not like, in this country, you realize you can have the child and not, you don't have to raise that child. You can still have a child. You can drop that child off in most fire stations, most police stations, no questions asked. You can put that child up for adoption. You do not have to kill your child. And then this country has a number of services for women who have children that they can help you. But the answer is ultimately is marriage. But now let's pick it up. I want to read some here because, some say my body, my choice. Well, at least biblically speaking, that child is distinct and has rights. Okay. So now I'm gonna read this in Exodus, the 21st chapter, in verse 22. And in this scenario that I'm going to read about, it is evident that that child, even in the womb, has rights as a person, and that is life. Okay. So now, this is Exodus 21 and verse 22. It says, if men strive and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, meaning her child, she goes into labor. It said, and yet no mischief follow, he shall be surely punished, according as the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judge is determined. So if that happened, the one that caused that the woman to go into premature labor and no mischief follows, meaning the child is followed, meaning the child is not hurt, but the woman still has a premature delivery, that man would be fine. Now, if mischief did follow, in other words, if there was something that happened that was wrong with the child, it says, and if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life. Okay? So what is that telling you? That is a life in the womb. While all these people are telling you to kill your children, that's a life in the womb. And what is a child? You are made in it, man made in the image and the likeness of God. He made you to be what he is. We are literally his offspring. And so what you are doing, you are killing the offspring of God. And I can't help but to conclude that that is directly from Satan. That is a satanic notion to believe that it is appropriate you to murder your children at the rate you murder your children. Again, what rate? 1 in 4 women have an abortion. What rate? You have 65 million abortions, 19 million Black abortions. This is Psalms 127 and verse 3. It says, lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of the mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So this notion that, children are not important. That is, you don't know who you're killing. You don't know who you're killing. You could be killed. Like in this case, notice what it says here. This is Jeremiah, the 1st chapter, in verse 4. It says, then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. So again, I talked about this in a lesson some days ago about the importance of children. Children are a blessing. Children are a blessing. Let's go to Galatians, the 1st chapter. And again, the people that come out of the womb, the scholars come out of the womb. The healers come out of the womb. The priest comes out of the womb. You don't have a right to kill in privacy. You don't have that right. Not at all. Galatians 1. Galatians 1. And notice this is what Paul said. So now you go back many years, Jeremiah, and he was sanctified from the womb to be a prophet. Notice what Paul says about himself. This is Galatians 1 and verse 15. It said, but when it pleased God who separated me from my mother's womb and called me by his grace, he was separated from his mother's womb. So now, that's 2 examples, biblical examples of the Lord dealing with these in the womb. And so who are you to kill the baby? I'm gonna read this here. This is the gospel according to Luke chapter 1. Because I said all those things came out of the womb. The salvation of all of mankind came forth out of the womb. This is Luke 1 and verse 39. It said, and Mary arose in those days and went into the hill country with haste into a city of Judah, and entered into the house of Zacharias and saluted Elizabeth. Zachariah and Elizabeth were the parents of John the Baptist. And it came to pass that when Elizabeth heard the salutation of Mary, the babe leaped in her womb. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Ghost. And she spake out with a loud voice and said, blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb. And whence it is this to me that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For lo, as soon as the voice of thy salutation sounded in my ears, the babe leaped in my womb for joy. And blessed is she that believed, for there shall be a performance of those things which were told from the Lord. Because again, John the Baptist, they were cousins in the earthly lineage, and John the Baptist was the forerunner for Christ. we were told that one was going to be born into the world to save the world. Again, who told you to kill your children? You read the story when he was born, they were trying to kill all the children. They were trying to kick because they were trying to do away with that one who was to be born king of the Jews. When Moses was coming on the scene, they were killing all the babies because they were reproducing too much. Plans of genocide. Well, understanding we those same people. We are the people of the book. We are the ones, we are the people that this book is describing. Israel is a black people that have been scattered into slavery all over the world. Moses, he was alive when they had a plan of genocide. They were killing all the male babies. He told you that you were going into slavery by way of slave ships. You're gonna be sold as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Meaning you're not gonna be redeemed. Here we sit in this captivity with this false religion that we have adopted wholesale, and with these terrible values that we have adopted wholesale. Only difference is we carry out our own program of genocide against ourselves. This is in the book of Isaiah. And I want to read this here, Isaiah the 7th chapter, because again, your salvation came through the womb. It said in verse 14, therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. So he said a virgin shall conceive. And that's what happened. In Isaiah the 9th chapter, verse 6, talking about the same one, because this is prophesying of Christ being born. It said, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So, brothers and sisters, we gotta stop killing our babies. Bottom line, gotta stop killing our babies and stop going along with this foolishness. And those are the things that we need to realize on this Mother's Day. I thank you for your